Why the Roman Empire fell, the untold truth. For over 1,000 years, the Roman Empire ruled the known world. It commanded legions, built roads that still exist today, and its influence stretched from the windswept moors of Britain to the deserts of Arabia. It was the first superpower. Invincible. Eternal. And yet it fell. But what if everything you think you know about Rome's collapse is wrong? What if it wasn't just the barbarians at the gates? What if it wasn't just weak emperors or economic collapse? What if the true reasons behind the fall of the Roman Empire have been hidden, overshadowed by myths, simplified by historians, or lost in the chaos of time? In this video, we're pulling back the curtain. This is not just another history lesson. This is the untold truth about the fall of one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. You'll discover the hidden cracks beneath the marble columns, the silent rot behind the Golden Age, and the invisible forces that brought down an empire said to be eternal. Stay with us, because once you hear this story, you'll never look at Rome, or the rise and fall of empires, the same way again. 1. The myth of the sudden fall. We often imagine the Roman Empire collapsing in a dramatic, cinematic fashion. A barbarian army storming the gates of Rome, setting fire to the city, toppling statues, and slaying emperors. But the truth is far more complex, and far more interesting. Rome didn't fall in a single day. It didn't even fall in a single century. The Western Roman Empire, the part that eventually collapsed in 476 AD, had been crumbling for hundreds of years. And the Eastern Roman Empire, what we call the Byzantine Empire, would go on to exist for nearly 1,000 more. So what happened in the West? It wasn't a sudden death. It was death by 1,000 cuts. And some of those cuts were self-inflicted. 2. The empire got too big to handle. At its height, the Roman Empire stretched across 3 continents, Europe, Asia, and Africa. It controlled around 60 to 70 million people, almost a quarter of the world's population at the time. But with such vastness came problems. Communication across the empire could take weeks. Managing borders, responding to rebellions, collecting taxes. It all became more and more difficult. The farther Rome expanded, the thinner it stretched itself. And then came the decision to divide. In 285 AD, Emperor Diocletian officially split the empire into East and West. This may have helped short-term administration, but long-term? It created a rivalry, a disconnect, and an eventual disintegration of unity. The West, plagued by corruption and constant invasions, grew weaker while the East fortified and survived. 3. A financial meltdown hidden in plain sight. Rome wasn't just fighting wars on its frontiers. It was waging war on its own economy. The empire's wealth relied heavily on conquest. New territories meant new slaves, gold, and taxes. But once expansion slowed, so did the inflow of riches. The cost of maintaining legions, infrastructure, and bureaucracy didn't stop. It soared. To make up the difference, Rome debased its currency. Gold and silver coins were mixed with cheaper metals. Inflation skyrocketed. Bread, once cheap, became unaffordable. Confidence in Roman money plummeted. The economy, once the backbone of a global empire, became its Achilles heel. 4. The military machine turned against itself. The Roman military was once the envy of the world, disciplined, professional, and nearly unstoppable. But over time, loyalty shifted. Soldiers no longer fought for Rome. They fought for gold, and for their generals. Civil wars became frequent. Rival emperors bought off armies to seize power. Between 235 and 284 AD, there were over 25 emperors, many assassinated or killed in battle. Rome was at war with itself more than with outsiders. Even worse, as Roman citizens lost interest in military service, the empire increasingly relied on foreign mercenaries, so-called foederati. These were often Germanic tribes who had little loyalty to Rome and, at times, turned on their employers. The same people paid to defend Rome would one day help destroy it. 5. A culture in decay, bread, circuses, and apathy. The Roman elite once revered civic duty, philosophy, and republican values. But by the time of the late empire, decadence had taken root. The government spent lavishly on spectacles, gladiator games, chariot races, and public feasts, not just for entertainment, but to distract the population from growing problems. Give them bread and circuses, the satirist Juvenal wrote. And that's exactly what the empire did. But as the population grew dependent on handouts, and the political class grew more corrupt, the spirit of Roman citizenship faded. Duty gave way to comfort. Excellence gave way to excess. In many ways, The Roman people stopped believing in Rome long before the empire actually fell. 6. The rise of a new power, Christianity. Here's where things get controversial. When Christianity became the dominant religion of the Roman Empire, especially after Emperor Constantine's conversion in the 4th century, Rome's identity shifted. The old Roman gods, with their ties to the state, were replaced. Religious authority no longer came from the emperor, but from bishops and church leaders. Some historians argue that this shift weakened the traditional Roman values that had held the empire together. Military service, once seen as noble, was increasingly shunned by devout Christians. Pagan temples were closed, ancient texts lost, and centuries of Roman tradition were erased. Others argue that Christianity actually preserved Roman unity through the church. But one thing is clear: Christianity changed the empire forever. It changed how power was viewed, how laws were made, and who was considered legitimate. 7. Environmental collapse, a forgotten factor. While most historians focus on human decisions, there's a hidden player in Rome's fall: climate. Recent studies of tree rings, ice cores, and ancient pollen suggest that the Roman Empire faced severe environmental stress in its final centuries. The so-called Late Antique Little Ice Age brought colder temperatures and shorter growing seasons. Crop failures became common. Famine spread. Disease, including the plague of Cyprian and later the Justinian plague, decimated populations. This wasn't just bad luck. It was a perfect storm. Rome needed strength to fight off invasions, keep its economy alive, and support its cities. But with each poor harvest, it grew weaker. Even the greatest empire is no match for nature. 8. Invasions or migrations. Rethinking the barbarians. Here's the popular version. Savage tribes from the north, Huns, Vandals, Visigoths, invaded and destroyed Rome. But that's not the full picture. Many of these so-called barbarians didn't come to destroy. They came seeking refuge from war, famine, and the terrifying Huns. They didn't storm the gates, at first. They asked to settle inside Roman borders, often peacefully. But Rome's corrupt officials abused them, extorted them, starved them. Eventually, the Visigoths rebelled. In 410 AD, they sacked Rome, not because they hated Rome, but because they had been betrayed by it. What followed wasn't a clean break. The Western Roman Empire was slowly carved up. Germanic kings ruled Roman lands but adopted Roman customs, language, and religion. Rome didn't fall, it transformed. The fall was more of a transition from Roman rule to the medieval world. 9. The final blow, a ghost of an empire. By the time Romulus Augustulus, the last Western Roman emperor, was deposed in 476 AD, the empire was already a ghost. Real power lay with barbarian generals, puppet emperors, and regional warlords. There was no dramatic ending, no last stand, just a quiet handover of power to Odoacer, a Germanic leader who ruled Italy in the name of the Eastern Emperor. Rome had faded, not with a bang, but with a whimper. 10. The empire that never really died. And here's the final twist. Did Rome truly fall? Its institutions lived on in the Byzantine Empire, which wouldn't fall until 1453. Its legal system influenced European law for centuries. Its architecture, language, and religion shaped the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, and even the founding of modern nations. Even today, the United States Capitol mimics Roman temples. The idea of a Senate, of republican government, of roads connecting an empire, all Roman. Rome didn't die. It evolved. Its spirit was reborn again and again, in Europe, in America, in every society that looked to law, order, and unity as its foundation. So why did the Roman Empire fall? It wasn't just one thing. It was everything. A perfect storm of political instability, economic disaster, cultural decay, environmental stress, and shifting power. But maybe the real lesson isn't about how Rome died, it's about how it lived. An empire that vast, that brilliant, that flawed, teaches us what happens when strength becomes arrogance, when unity becomes division, and when a civilization forgets what made it great. If you found this deeper truth behind Rome's fall fascinating, imagine what other stories lie beneath the surface of history. Make sure to subscribe, like, and turn on the bell, because this is just the beginning. We have more untold truths, forgotten wars, and hidden stories of the past coming your way. History isn't just about the past. It's about understanding our present and shaping the future.